It's my honor to welcome our opening speaker today, Dr. Sandro Galea, the new dean of WashU's new school in public health, the first time in a century that WashU has established a new school. Dean Galea is a renowned scholar with hundreds of publications that have collectively been cited over 100,000 times, and a notable public presence through his books as well as through his web presence. He's a member of the National Academy of Medicine. Please join me in welcoming Dean Galea.
Thank you, Professor Martin. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for being here, for joining us here at WashU. I am really delighted that you are all here, that you've convened in this university. So as you heard, I have the privilege of serving as Dean of the School of Public Health here, which is a school that is 11 months old, which started in January. It's been an exciting, interesting, challenging project to build a new school in a university that hasn't built a new school in 100 years. And in particular, it's been interesting, exciting, and challenging to build a school of public health at a time when universities and the entire health establishment has been under challenge like it hasn't been in about 75 years. So in the middle of all that, which as you can imagine, most of my time is spent trying to figure out how we can actually do what we're trying to do, a little bit like dancing between the raindrops. What gives me hope all the time is knowing that what we're doing is the right thing, and what we're doing fundamentally is doing the science. It is the kind of work that you are all doing. You're all here gathered to discuss. You know, I am in the business of the health of populations. That's what I've been doing for the past 25 years of my life. And the health of populations is driven fundamentally by ubiquitous forces. And there's nothing more ubiquitous than the air we breathe, which is what you are all in the business of. So, you know, at my level, when I'm thinking about this at a higher level, when I know that you have probably about 8 million deaths a year from indoor air pollution and outdoor air pollution, about 4 and 3, 4 and 4, depending on which estimates you look at, you realize that the work that you all do can make an enormous difference to populations worldwide. And it's really why I think what you do is, while many of you may not think of yourselves as being in public health, as far as I'm concerned, environmental science is very much directly in the middle of what we do in population health science, because everything you do touches on cardiovascular disease, touches on respiratory disease, on childhood disease. So I think what you do and what disciplinarily population health scientists do are inseparable. There's another element, I think, of what you do, which is close and dear to my heart, is that you are dealing with something around which there are deep and intractable inequities worldwide. I mean, we know that a lot of the burden of poor air quality is actually borne by lower and middle income countries. And within the US, we actually know that there is deep divides in terms of who experiences the consequences of the questions and the conditions that you study. So I think that points us to saying that there is a very strong, important, critical, scientific and moral imperative to advance the science that you are all invested in, which brings me back to where I started, which is how happy I am that you are convening here, how happy I am with the work that you are doing. Because at the end of the day, insofar as I am here and my job is to build population health science here at WashU, it is to be able to provide the scaffolding for ever more work like the kind of work that you do, both at WashU, within the School of Public Health, within the university, but part of our national and global ecosystem of science that fundamentally is aimed at creating a world where people can live longer, healthier lives. So a word of thanks to you all for everything that you do every day. A word of thanks for coming here from many other places to be part of this convening. And a word of thanks to the organizers who bring this all together. I, for one, am very much looking forward to seeing the science that you all will generate and to learn from you all. So thank you for having me. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you for those wonderful remarks. And next, it's my pleasure to introduce our meeting sponsor from the Center for the Environment, Dr. Michael O'Toole. And What impresses me about Dr. O'Toole is his efforts at community building across the Center for the Environment and beyond, and facilitating and empowering its members within that group to connect effectively and to reach out beyond that entity. And with that, I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Randall. Good morning and welcome. It's my pleasure to welcome you on behalf of the Washington University Center for the Environment. I am very excited for the next 2 days of dialogue and interdisciplinary collaboration, which, as Randall mentioned, is one of the core principles for the Center for the Environment, as well as really WashU as a whole. We're delighted to be one of the sponsors for this meeting and to see this exciting event take place in a time of year when it's really nice to be in St. Louis. It's especially exciting to welcome you here to address a topic, air quality and health, that has been a core focus of the Center for the Environment since it was established 2 years ago. It is relatively new, but it builds on the foundations of prior initiatives around campus, and it's really the first university-wide initiative to harness the research capacity and research building potential of environmental research at this university. When the center was launched, it was done with a recognition that today's complex environmental challenges require an approach that is interdisciplinary, collaborative, and breaks down barriers, something that I hope will be a running theme of this meeting as well. The interconnections between air quality and health are a challenge that can most effectively be addressed when researchers from academia, government, industry, and other sectors come together to address critical issues collaboratively. It's one of the reasons I'm excited about this meeting, because it's an opportunity for researchers and research development staff here at WashU to cross the aisle to government and other sectors to foster collaboration. Air quality and health stands at the intersection of the Center for the Environment's 5 core research areas. They include planetary health, biodiversity, environmental solutions, environmental justice, and earth systems, and climate change. Air quality and health is an issue at the intersection of these research areas. It impacts and is impacted by other environmental and social challenges like access to clean water, food insecurity, biodiversity loss, and infectious diseases. These challenges are complex and dynamic. They have to be addressed at the intersection of fields through collaboration and through transdisciplinary collaboration. The Center for the Environment hopes to mobilize partners to advance knowledge that addresses these complex environmental challenges. This is why one of the Center for the Environment's first actions after its launch was to help with the brainstorming for the university-wide Air Quality and Health Initiative, led by Randall Martin and supported by WashU's Transcend Initiative grant. It's really a model for fostering collaboration at the intersection of engineering, medicine, public health, and other fields, and hopefully you'll get a chance to learn more about the Air Quality and Health Transcend Initiative over these 2 days. They're laying the foundation for truly collaborative research that will make important contributions to our understanding of air quality and health impacts. So the Center for the Environment hopes to support research through being a collaboration hub, through accelerating research, and through signal boosting, so making sure that the kinds of conversations and discussions that happen inside a room like this don't stay in this room, but move outside to the broader university communities we're a part of, the broader government communities we're a part of, and the broader world at large. And we understand that can only happen through the kind of interdisciplinary and multi-institutional collaboration that the HAQAST team really embodies. So the world needs your expertise. We need the new ideas you'll share and the collaborative relationships you'll develop over the next 2 days, and I wish you a very productive meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks and for that sponsorship. Now it's my pleasure to welcome Tracey Holloway, the HAQAST team lead, who is also a named professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison and is a member of the National Academy of Medicine. Over to you, Tracey.
Jenny, when did you guys start at 9:45? Is that 9? Well, thank you all for being here today. It's really exciting to be launching the new HAQAST generation here at beautiful Washington University in St. Louis. Thank you, Randall. Thank you to our hosts and sponsors. We've had one other meeting here in St. Louis. It was spectacular, and so we thought, what better place to be having our first meeting of the new team. So today you're going to be hearing, and tomorrow you're going to be hearing about a lot of cool science, cool applications, information needs. What I'm going to be talking to you mostly here to kick us off is a little bit the structure of what we're doing here with the NASA Health and Air Quality Applied Sciences team, or as we call it, HAQAST, kind of like Outcast, but HAQAST. And I work, of course, very closely with Jenny Bradbert, who you've gotten lots of emails from and who has put together this program today. Will be really a treat to enjoy. If you haven't been to our website, HAQAST.org, I'd encourage you to go. And a lot of what I'm going to be pulling today is from our website, which overviews kind of the who, the what, and has a lot of tools that may be useful to you, whether you're a pro in the field and maybe have some resources to contribute, or a new user, or anywhere in between. So to provide a little context, for decades, NASA has funded science teams. And typically these science teams operate by, there's an instrument up in space, and they fund researchers on the ground to make sure that the data from the instrument goes to a good use. But back in 2010, for the very first time, NASA decided to fund not around an instrument, but around a problem. And that first team was called the Air Quality Applied Sciences Team, or HAQAST. That went for 5 years. It was viewed as a great success. And so actually when recompeting the award in 2016, they decided to add the H before HAQAST, which was to broaden the scope, not just to US air quality issues, but to broader health issues. And at the time, there was some concern, like, what about the air quality successes that were just beginning? Are those going to fall by the wayside? And the answer is no, not at all. We can do more. And actually, the air quality management community in the United States has remained kind of the backbone of a lot of our applications. But when we're thinking about problems, not every problem where satellite data can help fall under the legal framework of the Clean Air Act. Maybe it has to do with wildfire risk, maybe community planning, maybe pollen, maybe extreme heat. And these are all tied to the same framework, but broaden it by adding in the health. And so we really, from 2016 to 2020, expanded our team to include more health professionals. We had the third generation of the team from 2021 to 2025. And there we were looking maybe outside of government agencies, keeping, of course, our backbone, but now bringing in more environmental organizations, more health nonprofits. The American Lung Association, for example, put out a series of reports in late 2024 about the value of satellite data for their work. And we were really excited to be branching in this new direction. And so as we launch this new team, which this is the first meeting, we're running through mid-2029, the new frontier that we want to connect with are private industries, organizations, consulting companies, satellite companies, kind of the private sector. And again, not instead of what we've been doing, but just broadening the scope. And I think for many of the people in this room, this will not be a surprising evolution because private sector companies are part and parcel of air quality and health management. So that will be sort of a theme of some of the things that we're talking about today. With the new team, we have a new composition. We have 14 PIs. Each of these members are working with a team of collaborators, students, stakeholders, and other partners. So all total, the composition of kind of who's on HAQAST is around 60 or 70 people. And of these folks, most are here today at the meeting. If you're a HAQAST PI, could you raise your hand? So there we go, a lot of these friendly faces. And sometimes I describe this team as literally stretching from Alaska to Florida and everywhere in between. So thank you to you too. Okay, but there are 4 people that are not here today due to the government shutdown. And so I just wanted to kind of raise their profile a little bit since you won't get a chance to chat with them over coffee. Pawan Gupta at NASA Goddard, and he was also a member of the last generation of HAQAST and has continuing his work with the State Department. In the last generation, his work led to satellite data being integrated into the State Department's Zephyr air quality management system. And now his work with the State Department is having a focus on Africa, but also on broader training and capacity building in the US and around the world. Aaron Nager, Travis Toth are both new members to this generation of the HAQAST team. Aaron will be focused on satellite-based fine particular estimates, as will Travis, talking about prediction and analysis with spaceborne LiDAR observations. Aaron was also the applications lead for the TEMPO instrument, and TEMPO launched in 2023. It has been generating data now for a full year and almost going into 2 years. So we really have, that's become really the superstar of the satellite air quality portfolio. And I'm sure you'll be hearing quite a lot about TEMPO in the next 2 days. Amber Soya was also a member of the last generation of HAQAST, and her work is connecting fire activity, fire emissions, and smoke with health impacts. And you can read more about these 4 projects, as well as all of the 14 projects on our website with the /HAQASTPI. Also, I want to make an introduction in absentia to our 3 NASA program managers, one of whom, Helena Chapman, is here as a NASA contractor. But John Haynes, who would normally be speaking during this session to welcome you, is not able to because of the federal shutdown, as is Laura Judd, who's another associate in that group. So if you join us for future HAQAST meetings, there will be 3 people sitting here, or the equivalent in our other areas. We like to move our meetings around the country, and we meet every 6 months. Our next meeting will probably be in Madison, Wisconsin in May, but we're still finalizing that. And if you are at an organization that would like to host us, whether a university or a company or an agency, we would love to have our meeting in your shop and enjoy meeting your colleagues there. So when we think about what HAQAST is, I want to say, what is it? Is it a new data set, or is it an instrument? Like, I really describe HAQAST as a bridge. We're really trying to bridge the billions of dollars of infrastructure that NASA has created, including satellites, instruments, scientists, data distribution platforms, field campaigns, training programs, and more. And we're trying to bridge it with anyone who can use it. Private sector, public sector, US, global. Our goal is to make that data useful. And we do that through meetings like this, and really through advancing new questions and new applications that can be scaled up. So sometimes that we even kind of talk about it as like developing new recipes, that if you are working with a chef, they may combine the ingredients in a new way that really is amazing. But once you make it, then how can we document that recipe, share the recipe, and scale it up to get it out to everybody? So we may be working with one partner, but the goal is to be transformative and transferable. So the term that we use for kind of all the folks that are not traditional users of NASA science are stakeholders. Sometimes we call these data users, and they fall into different groups, as I mentioned earlier: federal agencies, state agencies, regional planning organizations, and city and county government, kind of all layers of government, nonprofits, community groups, and even private citizens. We've even had some K through 12 students attend our meetings and use this in science fairs. So, you know, really, the more the merrier. And as I mentioned earlier, kind of growing our engagement with for-profit commercial data companies, regulated industries, and related fields. So when we first launched HAQAST back in 2011, we had to like beg local air quality managers to come to our meetings. And they would say like, I have no need for NASA data. Like, NASA data does not relate to what I do. But over time, we have fortunately grown, and now a lot of people are not just voluntarily coming to our meetings and engaging with our work, but actually have been so involved, we said we need a new category for these super users who are so involved from outside organizations. And so we call these the HAQAST ambassadors. And if you are from an outside organization and you come to a few of our meetings, I'm looking at some of you, you perhaps should be one of our HAQAST ambassadors. And all we ask of our HAQAST ambassadors is that you help extend the use of NASA satellite data in your communities. And so this is an example. Some of these folks' positions have changed even since this slide was made a couple of months ago. But I think it sort of speaks to the geographic breadth, the professional breadth, the different types of organizations that really have stepped up. And I see some of our HAQAST ambassadors are here at this meeting as well. Okay, so I mentioned this growth of interest in connecting with the private sector. This has really been something that's been on my mind for a long time. And in fact, like I see Eladio Knipping here from EPRI, years ago, he said, why aren't there more regulated industries at the HAQAST meeting? And that was a good question. And we really, that's been in my mind for a long time. And it was something that I've been thinking of even before the current presidential administration had really set a mandate for NASA to better engage the private sector. So, and actually, I'll just, as a personal note, I'll say actually in August, my position at the University of Wisconsin-Madison was restructured for me to be leading a business engagement initiative at Wisconsin. So, I really am all in on engaging the private sector, not at the expense of, but in complement with public sector and scientific organizations. And as an example of how NASA is advancing this beyond HAQAST, there's going to be a summit, and I guess this is dependent on if the government reopens, but the U.S. Chamber of Commerce is not part of the federal government, so it may go on either way. But their Cyberspace and National Security Policy Division is launching a program with NASA called the NASA Earth Science and Industry Summit, and that's going to be in early December. And it's open to all industry, private sector organizations, but especially focused on agriculture, finance, insurance, utilities, and and energy. So if you know of companies that might be interested in using NASA satellite data in their work, please feel free to have them contact me, and I can send them an invitation to this summit. Or if you in the audience fall into this category, they're certainly we're looking to grow this community at the NASA level. So that's kind of what we think of as our stakeholders. There's also, so what are these billions of dollars of NASA data and tools? We really, again, mean all of the above. Satellite infrastructure, airborne campaigns, computer models, the scientists and engineers employed at NASA labs and by NASA funding all across the United States. And they've been building validation capabilities, foundational knowledge. All of the work that we're doing here in this room rests on the work of decades and decades and thousands of people and billions of dollars of investment. So we don't have to be advancing all the data products and algorithms ourselves because we're building on the capabilities of NASA that's already done that. They also have data centers, distribution platforms, training programs, analysis tools, and more that we can be leveraging, and that is our goal, being the bridge. And of course, NASA is not the only organization to have satellites or training programs or capabilities. And so we're also working to connect with NOAA capabilities, EPA capabilities, nonprofit, state, all of the above, trying to be a front door, a clearinghouse, a nexus to connect all of you with each other and with the information that can help you do your work. The backbone of NASA activities, though, is, of course, their satellite data. And this is a somewhat outdated image, but when we're thinking about what satellites are doing, they're looking down through the atmosphere at the Earth. And while some of our projects are using imaging of the Earth itself, of the Earth's surface, most of the work of this team is focused on satellite detection of the atmosphere. And actually, at the University of Wisconsin, we have a lot of people who do satellite analysis, and the land people don't really talk to the air people very much because the land people try to subtract off the atmosphere as noise, and the air people try to subtract off the land as noise. And so, Yeah, so our team is a little more heavily on the air side, but we have a welcoming community, and we certainly, a lot of the work that's dealing with extreme heat is looking at surface products. And when we're thinking about connecting with new audiences for new purposes, I think also kind of having a we're ready to help with whatever gets the job done. And I think that there are a lot of products that may not even be as widely used in our community as they could be. As an example of how we are trying to make that bridge, we're doing individual projects, we're having conversations, but at our very first meeting of the HAQAST ambassadors, the comment was made, can there be a flow chart that helps identify how my needs can fit with a data product? And at the time, I'm like, oh, sure. And I thought maybe a page or maybe 2 pages. And Jennifer McGinnis, who at the time was an intern with my group at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, now at Colorado State University, she started putting together the flow chart. And I think it grew to about like 68 pages, something in that. And now we've uploaded it to a slide deck to make it easier to navigate. And it's been built on a lot, including by Jenny, by Carl Mallings, by Aaron Nager, and Olivia Goins is a digital media intern who's working at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who is making it all look beautiful and easy to interact with. So that is also online here with the URL. And our approach is to build these partnerships, to listen to information needs. And I think that's really been a pivot that we've learned over time, is that it's not just telling people what NASA can do, but really listening to what user needs are. And where are you already getting your data from? What are your barriers? What are the things that you wish you had information on and you don't? And really this listening has been core to us designing projects that are effective and actionable to different organizations. We collaborate with our partners to design use-inspired research. We scale up successes as a team. And then, of course, every new success activates a new audience and can highlight a new application. And whether that's something like the NASA launching the Maya satellite, which is the first satellite to ever be led by a public health professional, or simply looping in an organization that didn't think that satellite data was useful until they heard that one of their peer organizations was finding it to be helpful. So our work is sort of research moving from questions to answers, creating data products, analysis methods, toolboxes, and insights to meet new needs, trying to expedite the time to market in the sense that we meet every 6 months. We are listening to users. So when we hear that something is helpful, we can lean into that and try to make sure that it's getting out as quickly as possible. And I think, one example of that actually is, I'll shout out Jennifer again, because when she was working with me, there was this question, how can we make satellite analysis of ozone precursors easier for users? And Jennifer said, I think people aren't using Google Earth Engine as much as they could be. So she wrote up a tutorial on how to do that. And then at the very next HAQAST meeting, we saw that the state of Georgia, the state of Texas, other organizations were already then using the Google Earth Engine approach. And my colleague Pat Reddy, who was at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for much of his career, where he got going with satellite data, then he started using it and developed a method to analyze wildfire smoke, which then he presented at the EPA workshop on exceptional event demonstrations that was also held here in St. Louis about 2 years ago. And following that, then Pat and I have been working together to further spin up Google Earth Engine applications for air quality management. So just this idea that you can go quickly from something that looks like a success and try to figure out how far can we push it and how fast. So the framework of our group follows kind of 4 threads. All of the 14 members who are on the team submitted proposals through the NASA standard research opportunities in space and earth sciences. It's called ROSES. That's where they fund a project. The roses from NASA are usually released on Valentine's Day. True. Everyone who's on the team wrote up a proposal that was peer reviewed that included specific ideas for specific projects that they would do if funded. And now that they've been funded, that work is moving. And my guess is that what we'll be hearing about today is a lot of those plans or those activities. I'm going to come back to the affinity groups in just a second, but jump to the bottom to say that meanwhile, my team at the University of Wisconsin, led by Jenny and working closely with NASA comms, we're trying to make sure that all the successes of the team, the activities of the team are getting out into the public. And whether that's through our newsletter that now has well over 2,000 subscribers, through social media, through NASA communications channels, we just want to make sure that where there is a success, we're promoting it. A unique thing about HAQAST, though, has been that from the very beginning, it was recognized that there are going to be many, many real-world problems that don't fit into the expertise of a single researcher. And I think that this, if you sort of zoom out for a second and pretend, like, imagine a world with no HAQAST, if an organization said, I wonder how I could use satellite data to track, say, wildfire smoke plumes, that person might have to like search all over the internet to find the one professor or researcher who could really answer their question, which is a very inefficient way of getting things done. With HAQAST, we're bringing together 14 PIs, 60 or so broader community members, but there will still be many topics that don't exactly align with one person. But what we found is that almost any real-world problem can be addressed by mixing and matching the expertise of this team with each other. And so that framework is made possible with additional funding called Tiger Teams from NASA. And, you know, good news, this is news even to the folks on the team, they don't know this yet, but we will be having a Tiger Team competition, and the ideas need to be generated and written up by January. So we will be talking about that at our business meeting for the PIs, which will be held tomorrow afternoon. But I say that to everybody in this room to let you know that, like, we are ready to hear your ideas for what should be the next thing that we do. And so whether you're talking over lunch or whether you're asking questions during the Q&A period of our sessions, please be thinking about, you know, what would you like to see coming out of the team? And we will be working to develop those projects. Once we come up with some proposals, actually all of the reviewers are all coming from the stakeholder community. So we will also be sending out an invitation through our website, through our newsletter that I think you probably are on, but if you're not, please sign up, inviting reviewers for the Tiger Team solicitation in probably February. And also, if you would like to be a reviewer, just let us know and we will loop you in. Which brings me to the newest way that we engage, and this is still developing, but this idea that we don't need to only interact with each other in this sort of around like subgroups for Tiger Teams that are funded by NASA, that there may be other thematic alignments that benefit from kind of us forming subgroups. And so we are, for the first time in this HAQAST, trying an experiment of having affinity groups. And so far, the far and away most successful affinity group is led by Carl Mollings around training, because Carl leads the training program for NASA RSET, which is a structured long-term training program. But how do we coordinate what RSET is doing with tutorials, with how-tos, with all of the different work resources that are coming out of HAQAST and other organizations? And so that's as an example of one of the affinity groups that has taken off so far. I want to also mention that HAQAST is not the only convening community that exists. And I think a great, an example that I want to talk a little bit about is the group on Earth observations. And John is not here, but if he were, he would say the GeoHealth community of practice is committed to expanding the use of Earth observations for air quality, heat, infectious disease, and other environmental health topics. Helena is here, and she has also things to say on this. And it was actually her great idea for me to include this because there are topics that HAQAST does not work on, like food security and safety or healthcare infrastructure, that the GeoHealth community of practice does work on. But air quality and heat are both topics within the HAQAST purview, and these are also GeoHealth community of practice topics. So as an example, there's even a work group specific on air quality, wildfires, and respiratory health that Carl and Nathan Pavlovic are both leading, and so you can contact them for that group. But there are other ways to get involved, and this is open to anybody at any career stage in any organization. One of the nice things that has come out of the GeoHealth community of practice has been getting more eyes and hands and brains involved in this NASA flowchart that's come out of HAQAST. This is also a good time for me to make shout outs to other related NASA programs, especially the NASA RSET program that has freely available trainings online and runs in-person lectures. So on almost any topic from very beginning to very advanced, that is a great way to grow your skills and knowledge of NASA Earth observations. There's also the NASA Earth observation, or the multi-agency Earth Information Center at earth.gov as another portal to navigating Earth data. And yeah, and before I give it back to Randall, I'll just make a point that we do really want to thank NASA for their continued support. We were really not sure if the HAQAST team would be renewed for this 4th generation, and it was, so that was really, really exciting. And in terms, Jenny mentioned the funded stakeholders. One of the aspects of our meetings, which has been kind of in place for the last maybe 5 or 6 years, has been at most of our meetings, we've had support to cover the travel of different stakeholders coming to the meeting. So we hope that that will be part of our work going forward. And so it's a way that if you know of people who might want to come to the meetings but wouldn't have their own agency or company or whatever support, please keep that in mind as you hear about our future meetings. And Randall, I will hand this back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracey.